Ready for a change?
I am talking to you.
Then get ready to explore the quantum possibilities. It's time to transform that outdated paradigm into something universal and new. Time to uncover the truth hidden beneath the veil of lies. A time to think outside the box as we link to a higher consciousness. Welcome to the awakening. And now the hosts of Broadcast Team Alpha, Nori Love and Augie Nost.
Hello, radiant rock stars. It's Tuesday night, and we are so happy to be back here with you tonight. And the chat room is starting to happen already. A big shout out to the chat room. And we have a really interesting topic tonight. And, you know, we are always talking outside of the box. And tonight we're going to talk outside of the body. So, if we go outside of the body, where do you guys think we go? I mean, honestly, this was something that I tried when I was younger. I was like 16. Let's really go back and get specific. And I was really pretty good at it. And I specifically started because I wanted to visit somebody who had transcended, and somewhere in my mind, I thought that if I could astral travel, I could see her. And I did actually, get to see her during one of my nightly jaunts. But, did I really go somewhere, or was it just a dream? Was it just, a 16-year-old girl's desire to see somebody that she loved so much? So I'm not sure, but I'm going to be asking some questions tonight. How about you, Augie?
Oh, absolutely. I'll be all ears. Absolutely. Yeah. And we have a phenomenal guest with us, Marilynn Hughes. She is the founder of the Out of Body Travel Foundation, which have a mission of reducing spiritual and physical hunger worldwide. And Marilynn has written 101 books.
Wow.
And gosh, Marilynn, you're putting out books like a baker is putting out donuts. I know I'm an author, and I know what it takes to put out a book. And not just that. She has written for 40 magazines and done 18 CDs on out-of-body travel and comparative religious mysticism. Now, these books are along with her music and art, which I have not even mentioned. They are available for free on her website. And gosh, that is totally unique too. And Marilynn has researched, written, and taught out-of-body travel and mysticism since 1987, and is a frequent guest on radio shows, TV shows, to discuss what you will see out there when you leave your body and travel. Gosh, Marilynn, you got to be the most busiest person I know. You got to be at least working 26 hours a day, not counting the overtime, because it's phenomenal.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's nice to be here. I appreciate the invitation.
Awesome. I've got tons of questions, but can we just go back for a minute and
sure.
How did you fall in love with this? Because you have to be in love with it to do as much as you've done. I mean, what a compilation of works you've done. How did this begin for you?
Well, it began, there was a smaller beginning when I was young, and then and then another beginning when I was in young adulthood. So, in my early childhood, when I was about 9 years old, I had this profound vision, and it was an out-of-body experience, but it was very much one of these, earth-shaking kinds of experiences where, the heavens opened up. There was this marble staircase going towards the heavens, the clouds billowing, with the energy of the spheres and the angels on each side of the staircase. And up at the top of the staircase was who I perceived to be God and our Lord Jesus Christ standing next to him. And I was walking slowly up the stairs, and it was just so powerful, the energy of it. And it was it's really impossible to even describe the moment, because literally it's one of those what I call burning bush moments.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And and so I went on to have an extensive experience, which I describe in my book, The Mysteries of the Redemption, where I was shown that I did have something that God wished for me to do later in life, and that this would come back to me at some point, and it would be revealed more to me. But I was also shown a lot of things about certain things I would have to go through before I got to that, and also the difficulties I would face along the way, and certain things also about the importance of the message that was going to be brought forth. And then I never forgot the vision, but then, I kind of lived on with my childhood. And then at the age of 22, I started having the spontaneous out-of-body experiences, and I began to journal them. And it was something that literally just unfolded in a way. I remember the first few experiences thinking, wow, this is, you're having these, you're thinking, wow, I've seen into, eternity, and seen this is so much greater than I knew. And then I'm looking at it now in hindsight, 34 years later, and realizing I just hit just the bare tip of that iceberg.
Wow.
And you ask what fueled that fire. It was this awareness, but also this landscape and in front of me. It was almost like, sometimes with friends, I would joke around and compare it to the Lewis and Clark expedition. It was this landscape in front of me where I realized I was exploring this new world, and realizing that this was not one place, but a multi-dimensional, infinite place with so much to learn about, so much knowledge to be gleaned from it, and also, ironically, what comes forth from that as well is, what we're all kind of seeking, which is, the meaning of life and the purpose of our existence here, and that, of course, really fuels that fire and that determination of, that you're going to do this. And of course, all across the board, every step of the way, I received direction in out-of-body travel experiences for everything that I needed to do, from writing particular books to even the steps that it would take to set up the foundation, and all the little details about, putting together the music and the art, because the music, a lot of the music, there's a lot of different types of music that I recorded, but there's a 5 CD set of specifically, music that I had received from out-of-body travel states. And so, trying to bring that in. And then another CD that I did is called The Frequency of Otara, which is actually, a procedure of what you go through in the out-of-body travel journey, of how your vibrations are raised which helps a soul to, first of all, have the experiences, but then also to continue to rev up, to take it to the next level. And so it was, they helped me with every step of that, trying to recreate it from the mystical to the physical sphere, so everything had its own process and its own steps. And, as you mentioned too, Augie, yes, it was it's pretty, especially when you look back on all the details of every little thing that had to be,
Yeah.
there was a lot going on. But, it
um,
was, go ahead.
I'm wondering though, when you had that experience about 9 years old, you were shown some of the things that you were supposed to do later on or would do later on. Did much of that actually unfold for you, so it became true?
Oh yeah, that's what all of this has become, and it was not something that I think I could really comprehend when I was 9 years old, but I was given more of the sense of the entire work, like an energetic morsel of it to understand. And yes, that and much more than I understood, for sure, has, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, all that you saw when you were there, the first time with the staircase and
Yeah.
God and Jesus, and I mean, that's a very compelling vision that would make me want to continue going back there. We have some questions, and one that dovetails into what we're talking about right now is astral projection dangerous?
Well, not if, well, ironically, you used a word that is helpful in that description. One of the common misconceptions about out-of-body travel and astral travel is that they're all exactly the same thing. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, this is just a simple misperception that people have. But astral travel is different from out-of-body travel. And there is a difference there that relates to your question. Astral traveling is referring to a specific realm, which is the astral realm, which is the fourth realm overlapping the physical realm. So if your travel is going to be limited to the astral realms, you're going to have more chance of running into issues or problems because you're dealing with mortal realm issues, mortal realms consisting of, the aspects of good and evil, right, that are within ourselves and outside of ourselves. So you're going to run into the souls there that, lost souls, wandering spirits. You can run into things that have more of the dark energy or even just tricksters, that sort of thing. So astral traveling does have its perils. One of the, I definitely do a lot, and this is one of the things that I think is a little different about my approach. And this was, very much directed through the experiences that I had, and that this was really important, was that there is a spiritual warfare element that we have to be aware of. And we get trained mystically as we are going through this experience, because we will be dealing with both types of existences, the higher, the lower, and the in-betweens, depending on what we're called to do or where we're going to be going. And so caution is advisable. And the way that I guide people is with a lot of information and understanding about what those hazards are. And it has a lot to do with the fact that, just as there are hazards in the physical realm, there are hazards in these other realms as well. If you are experiencing out-of-body travel and you're going to the higher spheres, and some people have experienced only this, and that's great, where, like you're realm 5 and up, where you're in the higher, finer frequencies of light. then you may not be running into these sorts of things. But most people who will have out-of-body travel experiences will run into these things because we do have many, many infinitesimal purgatorial realms and also lower hellish realms. And so these are all part and parcel of the journey. And, one of the reasons it often becomes relevant is because of the fact that we are all obliged to give back to creation that which creation gives to us. And so as we are also being taught and guided, we are also being trained and utilized then to assist souls who are in lower states than we might be in. And so, we will generally come into contact with that sort of thing just by the nature of the fact that as we receive assistance, we also must give assistance. It's part of the universal giving and receiving that we do. And so we all, there's a mystical training that you do undergo if you go into the out-of-body travel experience and take it very seriously, where you will be taught these things mystically. And so the need for concern is much lessened in the sense that you walk cautiously, and you also walk with discernment and wisdom and understanding of what you're walking towards, rather than kind of walking blind, so to speak.
So you can't just put yourself in a cocoon of light, declare that you're a child of God, throw a dart on the multi-dimensional map and go. You shouldn't do that.
Well, I mean, people do that, and sometimes it results in wonderful experiences for them. And one of the things I do tell people is not to limit God. Let God determine your journey. So letting God throw that dart is not a bad idea. But at the same time, you want to be doing the things that will cultivate that journey, which will provide you with a framework for which you are moving forward in this path that is providing you with then safety, guidance, and wisdom as you move forward. Because there are a lot of stages that we have to move through. We have no concept really, of how many different levels, different vibrational levels, and how many different levels of knowledge that we have to achieve. So, when we just begin having the out-of-body experience, we may be beginning with one set of knowledge that we have to learn, not realizing that literally, we could be looking at something eons apart from that in 20 years. Something that's so far beyond our ability to even comprehend at that particular moment. And that's why we want to allow God to direct that journey, because God understands the process that we each individually have to take to go that step forward, those steps forward that lead us there. And that's what's going to be the most fruitful for all of us individually in terms of our own spiritual evolution.
I think that's very important actually to keep that in mind, because just maybe because somebody have read a book or two, think they know a lot, and then go out there, that doesn't mean that they should not take that counsel or take that advice from the higher source. God is everywhere, and it is where we are. So especially also if you had a really bad day and your energy is down and you're mad at someone, maybe that's probably not the day you should go out there, because the energy that you have here, you're going to bring with you, right?
Well, that can definitely happen for sure, because we do, we go where we're compatible for sure. And so we do want to be aware of our energy as we're trying to project, and that's why meditation is really helpful as one of the things that we practice as out-of-body travelers to help us to maintain so that we're in a good space when we do this. But yes, there are so many steps to this. One of the books I wrote was called A Life of Cultivation. It's in the World Religions series of books that I wrote, and it is specifically about the importance of this cultivation of the spirit that we need to undergo, which allows for us to actually achieve much more spiritually in the out-of-body travel states, but then, of course, of necessity, in our spiritually evolutionary journey, which is what we are planning this for in the first place. Because out-of-body travel, it may be something that people come across initially as something interesting and fun, but really it becomes a very profound tool of spiritual evolution.
Yeah, and also from all of your books, if somebody just now hears about out-of-body travel and want to learn more, which one do you think of your books would be the best one for them to go and download?
I usually recommend that people download two books to start with. One is called Come to Wisdom's Door, and it's a very short book which helps you to get into a proper space to prepare for having an out-of-body experience. And then The Mysteries of the Redemption, which is actually written and programmed to help people to spontaneously have experiences. And that's what a lot of my readers have reported happening. So, and those two books would be the ones.
I actually wrote it in the chat room. We've probably got just maybe 30 minutes to break, but there is a question in the chat room from Shady D about spontaneously traveling that way. So on the other side of the break, we'll address that. How about that?
Sounds good.
All right.
This is the Broadcast Team Alpha Show, hosted by Nori Love and Augie Nost. The one show that takes your doubts of the unknown and spins them into reality. Share your thoughts by calling our hotline number at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230.
Call now.
Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More cutting-edge conversation and exploration of the quantum universe after this.
Gee, it's so quiet. Too quiet. Terribly quiet. Awfully quiet.
Do you have an hour to kill? Well, crank up those EVPs, spirit boxes, and walk the haunted halls of the unknown with UK's very own paranormal investigator, David Cook.
You guys ready for this?
The Ghostly Hour, live Sunday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern.
And now, you're live.
Come hear first-hand accounts of some of the most famous ghost sightings, photos, and videos from around the world. Skeptics, believers, and spirits both good and bad. Welcome. The Ghostly Hour, hosted by David Cook. Live every Sunday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Great.
It's great.
I think it's great.
The all-new KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Great. Make a note of it. It's great.
If ever a breed was affectionate to a fault, it's the Golden Retriever. They're people dogs, pure and simple. And the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada needs your help. If you would like to volunteer, foster, adopt, or donate, go to the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada's website at grrsn.org. That's grrsn.org. Or call 598-GOLD. That's 598-GOLD.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone?
Do flowers have best friends?
I don't know.
Hey, look.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Looking for a radio show like no other?
We need something brand new.
Then tune into the KCOR Digital Radio Network, Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, and get ready for The Quantum Shift. A great shift of consciousness is sweeping across the Earth. Are you ready for the dimensional shift?
It is amazing, is it not?
The Quantum Shift. Quantum Shift. Quantum Shift. Hosted by Dr. Sam Muggsy and Kent Dunn. Be part of the fifth dimensional reality, where consciousness prevails and the universal law of one is the only true reality. The Quantum Shift. Quantum Shift. Quantum Shift. Live Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Going live.
Come explore the quantum possibilities. This is Broadcast Team Alpha.
Broadcast Team Alpha.
To be on the show live, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. Share your thoughts of the show on Twitter at KCOR Radio, #KCOR. Or join the cutting edge conversation live in our chat room at KCORradio.com. Now back to Broadcast Team Alpha with your free thinking hosts, Nori Love and Augie Nast.
Yes, hello. We are back with the Broadcast Team Alpha Show, and we are talking with Marilynn Hughes, the author of 101 books. I just can't get over that. That's so wonderful. And we are talking about astral travel and out-of-body travel and the similarities, because there actually is a little bit of difference. And before the break, we had a question in the chat room, and Marilynn, maybe you could address that question a little bit.
Sure. So the question is that someone is asking about spontaneous out-of-body travel.
So Shady D said, if you were not the type of child who had spontaneous out-of-the-body travel, is it more difficult as an adult? And somewhere in the thread, it kind of got buried. Shady talked about not liking to be at the bus stop or on the bus, and she would go somewhere.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are some people who have these experiences spontaneously, but that's not what I see as the norm. And I know, like in my own experience as well, if you do have like a few spontaneous experiences that you don't expect, then you find yourself working pretty hard to recreate it and making it happen. And so you learn the discipline anyway. But so I don't necessarily think it is harder if you didn't have that natural propensity. I've definitely seen with a lot of my readers that this seems to be a natural capability that people can take out of a dormant state, but it is something that requires practice and discipline, and also it's it's putting yourself in the proper energy for it. And so I think that Shady D can definitely not be concerned that just because she wasn't someone who was naturally gifted, that this isn't something she can experience. Ironically, I think most of the people that I hear from at my website are people who weren't naturally necessarily gifted. It was something that they developed after starting, they start reading those 2 books, Come to Wisdom's Door and The Mysteries of the Redemption, which you can download for free at outofbodytravel.org. And then they start having, they start going through some of the things, and I think it's possible for a lot of people. If
Well, what a beautiful soul you are to gift your work to other people. That's really beautiful. And you kind of piqued. Oh, absolutely, you're welcome. You piqued my curiosity with the part about setting your vibration before you travel, or.
Yeah, well, one of the biggest steps here, and ironically, this is follows through with what Shady D's asking. One of the biggest steps in out-of-body travel experiences is to get into the vibrational state, which is the precursor to out-of-body experiences. And so different people will try different techniques to do that. What I have recommended to people, and what I did was, deep meditation for, I would do when I started, years ago, I would do 2 to 3, sometimes even 4 hours of meditation at a time. The reason for this, and it would be the meditation where you're lying down, because you don't want to be in a seated position, because if that vibrational state does come about, you don't want to fall over and break the state. You want to be prepared for the out-of-body experience. So you want to be in a lying down position. The reason why you have to do those lengthy periods of deep meditation, and people have trouble with this in the beginning because it's so, it seems like a lot of time. But the reason why is because you are literally bringing your consciousness down and down and down into a different level of a different level where the spiritual consciousness can then kind of come up. And what you're doing is you're detaching from your physical vibration to your spiritual vibration. And in order to do that, it takes some time, especially in the beginning. It's been 34 years since I started that. And when I first started doing that, I would literally spend 3-4 hours meditation, and sometimes in the 3rd hour I might go into the vibrational state, and then you can proceed to the next steps. But now, decades later, I can go into that vibrational state very easily, but it did take years and years of practice. But it is this process that we can discipline our minds. Augie mentioned to me that he utilizes a meditation on love, and different people can utilize different types of things to focus on. One of the things that I would focus on would be the mindfulness type of meditation, which is just bringing everything back to the breath, so that you would just leave the thoughts and let them go. And then you're just pulling everything back to consciousness, so that it can all be focused on moving your point of reference and your point of focus to the consciousness, which will then at some point you'll be touching into the vibrational state, which it's a very powerful thing. And even that, you want to be prepared for that. So you're going to be going through some of that meditation process is going to start preparing you for that as well. I don't know, Augie, did you find that to be the case in your practice as well? That when you first experience the vibrational state, it's a little unnerving. Years later, decades later, that's not how it feels at all, because you're I love the vibrational state.
Yeah,
It's very soothing, but in the beginning, it's so powerful that you're a little bit taken aback.
A lot taken back. The first time I got out, man, oh man, that scared the daylight out of me.
Yeah, me too.
I thought I died.
That me too. I did too. Yeah, and so because you're literally separating your spirit, separating from your body. And so what else are you to think, So you're like, well, did something happen? Did something happen here that I'm not aware of, because, and then, the vibration is such a very strong thing. I don't think people understand it when you just talk about it as much until you actually experience it, because the physical vibration is a much lower level vibration than when you actually touch into the vibration of your spirit. They're so different in their power and frequency that it's literally like, plugging yourself into a power socket of some kind,
Absolutely.
And so very different. And so there's a definite like a definite shift between when you make that shift from physical vibration to spiritual vibration. It's not subtle. It's like whomp. You're like, it's and you're hearing those heavy duty sounds, which sound often like jet engine sounds. It's the noises, the intense vibration is literally, if you don't know what it is, you might think something really strange is happening to you physically, because if you feel like your body is vibrating at these unrecognizable speeds. But what that is, again, it's your spirit. Mm-hmm. And then, all of a sudden you're seeing things in a different light as well. So what you see is a little bit altered because you are peering now through the eyes of the spirit into the fourth realm, which overlaps the third. And so things might not be exactly the same as would be in the room that you previously occupied. Mm-hmm. It will be slightly different. And then you move into the stages that involve, the separation from the body. But that vibrational state is one of the most important aspects of it, because it is the state that is required for you to actually separate from form. And then it becomes also a very important part of the process of your spiritual evolution being completely tuned higher and continually being tuned higher, because through the vibrational raisings, that is how you are prepared for higher realm travel and how you are prepared to go into higher and higher levels of knowledge that you will be taught. And I did see just someone mentioned, do you see a cord? It's interesting. I've heard a lot of different things. A lot of different people have said different things. Some people see it, some people don't. I have never seen a cord. So I can just throw mine out there along with the other data. I've never seen a cord.
If you have never seen a cord, it's probably because you are traveling with consciousness, not by the astral vehicle.
Well, maybe that's a good point. Yeah, because I never have seen that.
What is the astral vehicle?
Yeah.
What is it? I thought we were talking about spirit. So what would the astral
but when you see the cord, the astral vehicle is attached to the physical body with a cord, and a lot of people never see that because they do not travel with the astral vehicle. They are traveling by consciousness or the soul. So that's why many do not see it. And
right. So what is the astral vehicle?
That is that gray substance that I don't know. I have always wondered about the purpose for it, but there is something attached to the physical body that leaves at the time of physical death, and there's a gray substance kind of formed and shaped as the physical body is, and when it's tightened up, it can look just like you, but otherwise it kind of looks like maybe a little cloudy.
Yeah, I think I've seen that for sure. Yeah, and that goes to completing the thought on, the astral travel versus astral travel. The astral realm is that dealing with the mortal elements, but out-of-body travel basically refers to traveling in an infinite number of realms. So that's the difference.
Yeah.
So you can, in out-of-body travel, you're referring to traveling anywhere, whereas astral travel, if you're going to be particular about what it really means, and a lot of people when they're saying this don't realize there's a difference, so they're referring to the same thing in what they're thinking.
Right.
But astral travel is really just talking about that overlapping third and fourth dimensional type of experience.
Yeah. Oh, there is a question in here, really good one from Margaret.
Okay.
She said, is it possible to travel through time astrally? I would say, okay. Also, she says, we wouldn't need a time traveling device then.
Well, yes, it is. It is not only possible, but it is very, very common. There's actually a tunnel that you travel through. It's a dark tunnel. It looks a lot like what near-death experiencers describe with the light at the end. There's a bunch of different corridors and tunnels that take you to different types of places. There's cloudy, ribbed, tunnels that take you to certain initiatory realms. And so we have different types of tunnels. There's a specific tunnel that takes you either backwards or forwards in time, or even into the parallel realities. And so, yes, you actually do travel back and forth in time, and you can go back into memories of past lifetimes, sometimes into future lifetimes, sometimes into lifetimes that are parallel.
Wow.
So, and also sometimes in different universes. So it's very, very much greater than we can imagine, very much like what St. Paul said, what God cannot, man cannot imagine what God has created for those who love him. And, we think of the world beyond very, one-dimensionally, because our existence here is not that, it's very, three-dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond this, it is multidimensional. It is so beyond what we conceive of here. And so there is so much more. And you can learn a lot about that in a lot of the books at the site. Yeah.
And let me mention also, we hear from time to time about the Akashic records.
Yes.
Can you speak on that a little bit? How do you, or how would anybody have a look at that?
Well, it's not something that I have seen as being something that you can just go to if you want to. It's something where I've been taken there when there is a genuine intent. So, like, for instance, I have had a few instances where I was taken to look at the Akashic records. Ironically, it was in relation to some of the things that I was called to do, that I was being a little bit stubborn, and I was like, I don't think I want to do the lost soul thing. It's kind of, hard.
Yeah.
And so they took me to the Akashic record and showed me the agreement that I had made, that I would be working with lost souls. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm going to be doing that then.
Wow. That's amazing.
So, what I've definitely seen with that is that it is more of something where you are taken there when it is determined that it is helpful or necessary. In my case, it is not something where I have found it something easy access, so to speak. Like if, I can just say, hey, I'd like to go look at these records for so-and-so. It's something that's kind of more sacred and more holy, and it's something that you have to have particular permissions to go. You know what I mean?
Yes, and I love that you bring this up, because I was going to ask you, are there ethics? Are there ethical behaviors that you have to follow? I mean, you can't just show up in some crushes, right? Somebody you've got a crush on in that person's bedroom across the other side of the world, right? I mean, are there ethical rules?
Well, that would be actually the misuse of the gift. And that is actually, I actually just put up, I have a Q&A channel on my YouTube channel, so people can check that out too. There's a link to it on the website. And I just put up a lengthy answer about what's called eternal law. And yes, there is what's called eternal law, which is something that we're taught as we are going through mystical training, and it is it's a higher code of ethics. One of the things that we forget is that God doesn't think as men think, and so there are energetic laws in the universe about what is in concert with the will of God versus what is in concert with the will of man. And so, like just going and peeping, being a little peeping spiritual Tom is much more in the realm of, the will of man. And so it's not something that would be acceptable if you are trying to move towards service of God and service towards God. You would get some scolding for that sort of thing. One of the things that I would recommend, there's a book in the Mysteries of the Redemption series, Medicine Woman Within a Dream, which teaches about eternal law and eternal truth, and it gives a lot of information about that to people.
I'm going to definitely check that out. So thank you.
Got another question just sliding out of my tongue here, and that is that I know there are some people listening right now that would have asked that if they thought of it, and that is that by out-of-body travel, can we visit our departed relatives?
Yes, that does happen. And sometimes that is allowed. It depends a lot on if that sort of thing is good for the soul who's crossed over at that period or juncture or not. Because there are periods in our afterlife journey where it would be intrusive to the person, and there are other periods where it's allowed because it is healing and it is a good thing. So
can I just comment on that, because this kind of, we're circling back. We've got about 4 minutes to close, but we're kind of circling back to, when I was 16 and I wanted to see that person who had died. And it was really interesting because I got to see her like in an open air market. I mean, it reminded me of something that might look like India, which I had no conscious correlation with that. And I could see her, but there was some kind of a rule that I agreed to that I couldn't talk to her.
Yeah.
But just being able to see her was so healing, like you were just talking about, just incredibly healing.
And, sometimes people do come, the people who have departed, they reach out to us. If you look at the after-death communications that people experience, a lot of the time it's actually instigated by the person who's departed. And that can be a huge need on their part for, something to be communicated to their loved ones, or for whatever that might be, left unsaid or something, to be able to have some closure in that. But it's also like what you said is very profoundly stated in your experience. It's beautiful. One of the experiences that I had years ago was about how where a group of the souls in the purgatorial realms had come to me, and they said, we have to keep a wall between us and them. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to move forward. And so what was probably happening at that time for your friend was that there was something going on in her own spiritual formation on the other side, in her own afterlife journey, where, talking to one another would not have been beneficial to that. Because, we can also, put attachments to those we love who have crossed over, and they can also still have attachments towards us. And so when we cross over, there are these processes where these new balances have to be cast, so that so souls can move forward, because they have to continue in the evolution that they now will travel on in the new world that they embody. And so that's the the fine balance that they're trying to have there.
Yeah. I see we got less than 2 minutes left, and well, Marilynn, let people know again where they can find your books and what they can actually participate and learn on your website.
Oh, we have so much. It's at outofbodytravel.org. And if you go to the Out of Body Books page, you can download all of our books there for free. We also have a course of study, which is totally for free there as well. So you can take that. A lot of people find that helpful. I actually mirrored that to what I was actually led to study in the order that it was given to me from the spiritual realm. So I try to mimic the actual process I went through from the guidance of the mystical realms. So outofbodytravel.org, and everything's there.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. It's been great talking to you.
We'll be back next week.
You've been listening to Broadcast Team Alpha.
Broadcast Team Alpha.
Hosted by Nori Love and Augie Nost. Every Tuesday night at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The balance of power is shifting to a new paradigm. Will you be ready? For more information on Broadcast Team Alpha, as well as the hosts, Nori Love and Augie Nost, please visit their website at broadcastteamalpha.com. Until next week, remember to keep those minds open while always exploring the endless quantum possibilities.
Broadcast Team Alpha. Over and out.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.